Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'd like to introduce my very good friend and special guest, Danny.
Hey.
And I think we even have our dog here. That's Kenna in the background. And I invited Danny over because, so many times we talk about cryptocurrency, so many different things, but really it's all about community. And it's important to have physical gold, have physical silver, have your Bitcoin, become your own bank, all of that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's like we have each other and we have this awesome community here in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wanted to bring him on the show. And Danny is our EMF expert. So I'll have his website. He's kind of off grid, but I'll have his website down below if you want to mitigate your house, right?
Yeah, if you want to. So I have equipment and I detect and help people lower their exposure to EMFs, for health reasons.
Yeah. And you went through a health crisis yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And by mitigating EMFs, you became the strapping young man that you are today.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
it's a huge undervalued piece of the health puzzle is your electromagnetic exposure in your environment, your environmental, the health of your environment.
Right. So as we dollar cost average into all of our crypto and increase our wealth, we have to make sure that we have our health.
Right.
Super important.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's really cool. So Danny and I were talking before the show. We were trying to remember, we met about 4 years ago. And I helped you become your own bank to hold your crypto.
Yeah. Yeah.
So explain with everybody, like how is that process for you?
I mean, if you don't know much about it, it's a little daunting, but it's super liberating. It's a super liberating, just like when I got into EMFs, I realized that there were things I could do. We live in a world of this EMF saturation, and the things I can do to help mitigate my exposure and improve my health. It was, the same thing. These two things are pretty synonymous, actually. But you teaching me about finances and helping me be my own bank and secure my, my finances was a big deal to me. Was daunting at first.
Yeah.
A few things you help cut that learning curve for sure.
For sure. And it's interesting because so many times, like after someone becomes their own bank, a lot of the feedback I get is I feel more sovereign.
Yeah.
I feel more in control of my finances because most people don't understand back in 2010, the Dodd-Frank Act was passed and that legalized bank bail-ins here in the United States. So if we have some sort of monetary crisis, the banks can actually seize your money and give it to the government if they deem it necessary. Mm-hmm. So that's actually written into law. We did a song here locally with some of the local musicians, Dump Cash, and it educates everybody about the Dodd-Frank Act. So to remove, even if it's some of your dollars, you can convert your dollars into digital dollars, right. Hold them on multiple different blockchains right now. You got Ethereum, Arbitron, Polygon, but you can hold the digital dollar on the blockchain and you are in control of that. Permissionless, right. Censorship resistant, and no one can bail out your bank. Right. Your bank.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Not Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, right? You need permission to use those banking services.
Right.
And that's that is what makes the blockchain so special, specifically with Bitcoin, right? Almost 20,000 nodes all over the world, super decentralized, super secure, no CEO, right? There's no president of Bitcoin, right? There's no venture capital, money behind Bitcoin,
right?
Okay. And it's peer-to-peer transactions, no third-party intermediary, only 21 million Bitcoin, right? Which we talk about a lot. And so I think at this point of the game, not financial advice. We're both, obviously, I'm not a financial advisor. Danny's not a financial advisor. But, when we talk about our purchasing power of the dollar, it just seems that almost every time we go to the grocery store, we need more dollars to purchase those same goods and services.
Right. And one of the things I was going to backtrack and say is that it could be a little confusing at first, right? Like, so, but you helped me understand the terminology, and I definitely am nowhere near as knowledgeable as you are about it, but it takes some of the fear away, because I feel like in the current economy or the current financial system, we've sort of made a trade or a compromise for convenience, because it's so easy, and you feel, well, why did I feel so secure having my money in the bank? Why? There was no reason. It's just because I was used to it. And so the more familiar I became with these new ways, the more I got on board, and just eliminate that fear. Some of it's still there because it's still new to me.
Right. And it is really new. It's funny. So I pulled out my first wallet I ever had, you guys, is a My Ether wallet. It's a paper wallet, and I thought this would be fun to show my address, my private key. This still works. So everybody can scan that code and send me some ETH. It'll actually go into this wallet, which is really cool. And then I kind of upgraded to a Trezor,
Right.
then a Ledger. Now we're using SafePal, Engrave, Tangem. We've come a long way since 2017,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Oh yeah.
And I believe that's when you first got into crypto.
Yep.
And then you kind of, like me, probably forgot about it.
Well, I didn't. So you helped allay some of my fears, and gaining knowledge, overall helped, allay my fears about, what crypto is all about, and how we can use it. And, back then I felt like you had to have nerves of steel to hold, and not sell. And that's what I did. I got in, and quickly I sold.
Right.
Just because I didn't know anything about it. And,
Right.
I think that's the value, some of the value of your newsletter, is you'll help people, not necessarily just allay their fears, but you allay fears just by educating and talking about these things, and talking about the future of the financial systems. And
Totally, right? Because and again, it's like the market is so extremely volatile. So I think part of that education is, well, one, because the market is so volatile, that's the period of time we can actually, make money
right.
as investors. And then, again, with Bitcoin, or just hold long term, because we are moving into a new financial system. That financial system is on the blockchain. So I don't really think we need to have nerves of steel. At this point, we just need time in the market. Right. Time in the market. Right. We're not timing the market. We're just spending time in the market.
Yeah.
Because every 4 years, Bitcoin goes up in value.
Yep.
And we were kind of talking about when we first got into Bitcoin. I know for me, it was like around like 9,800. But then it's just like, today, that same Bitcoin is worth about 60 grand. So when I think about the 2008 financial crisis, right, and that's really when, we really started turning on the printing press, right,
Mm-hmm.
adding all of this, like all these dollars into our system, to buy a $400,000 house back in, I think it was like might have been 2012.
Mm-hmm.
You needed almost 800,000 Bitcoin. And today you need just over 6 to buy that same $400,000 house.
Right.
So we see, like, over time, how deflationary and how Bitcoin protects our wealth, our purchasing power, whereas we're losing our wealth, we're losing our purchasing power by just holding dollars. And this isn't about dumping all your dollars out of the bank. It's about diversifying,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, we want to hold gold and silver in the house, but we also might want to, hold some Bitcoin and some cryptocurrencies, because the more you learn about all these different projects, not all the projects are going to solve problems.
Right.
Dog with hat is not solving a real world problem, but Bitcoin is censorship resistant money. That's solving a real world problem. And I think, like, you made such a good point about never questioning the banking system, because our world here in the United States, up until this point, pretty much up until about 2020, have we really seen a quick deterioration, of this, of our social fabric
Right.
and our monetary system. And, when Trump was president, he printed 20% more dollars into existence,
Mhm.
And so we need more dollars.
Right. Right. And once you start looking into some of the laws on, you know, in the banking system and, what they legally can do, with your real estate, your possessions, your holdings in the bank, it definitely makes you a little bit more fearful of keeping on with this, with the traditional way of doing things.
Right. I mean, and it makes such good sense too, because something we've talked about is something I've talked about with Rowan. Like Rowan and we used to own a couple of rental properties and we sold them, and we're kicking around the idea, should we buy another rental? But then it's like, why don't we just buy Bitcoin?
Right.
Because all we have to do is hold it.
Yep.
And it goes up in value. If we buy another rental, we got to maintain that rental. We got to,
And that's where we,
yeah,
and that's where and that's where we are right now. That's where the crypto market is, and that's where the real estate market is.
Yeah.
It's like, and it makes sense to not, if you have a rental income property and you're looking to buy a third, to maybe not to put it into crypto.
right. Something to
Or
consider.
gold or something.
Exactly. And when we talk about buying Bitcoin, we talk about buying gold or silver, we're talking about physically holding it,
Mhm.
being in possession of it. Like there's a term in crypto, and it's like, if you don't hold it,
Right.
you don't own it.
Right.
Right. So if you buy Bitcoin and you're holding it on Celsius,
Mhm.
Voyager, right? So Danny held a bunch. You want to share your story with Voyager?
The crypto brokerage Voyager, I held all of my crypto at one point, and Andrea was, I was really busy at work. I think I was sick at the time with the flu,
Right.
and you were imploring me, something's about to happen, make sure, and you helped me get one of my coins. You helped me get Dogecoin.
He only moved Dogecoin off of
I should have
Voyager.
practiced with my Bitcoin. But then in July 5th, 2022, they, froze all the assets, and, it was stuck there,
Yeah.
until recently. Well, still, don't have it back, but, most.
What did you take? Like a 30-40% haircut?
Something like that, yeah.
Right.
Oh, and they stopped the valuation of the crypto at then, so it's, stopped where it was, which was, a fraction of where it went.
Right.
Half of where it went to.
Right. So once again, it's like when we talk about Voyager, Celsius, Coinbase, these are centralized systems, right? They have CEOs, they're controlled by central entities. And the nice thing about becoming your own bank is like you don't have to trust any outside company. You are your own bank. You are personally responsible for keeping all your information, right, to your own bank to have access to your Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
And if that sounds scary, it's not as scary as it sounds. Scarier, definitely, now that I know, scarier keeping my money in the bank.
Totally. And we're not telling everyone dump your money out of the bank,
right.
But I'm a big believer in diversification, right? Because, ever since like COVID, right, the world has become more and more and more unstable. When I watch, like, whether I'm watching CNBC News or Fox News, the world is more and more and more unstable. I don't care what the story is, but I'm looking at the energy and I'm looking at like what they're feeding us, right? And again, it's just like, it makes me be like, I'm so grateful that I am my own bank.
Right.
And we're never going to hold enough Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And
that's old school, even before. I mean, to have a store of gold or to have, food or, or community or whatever, those things are super valuable. So, I mean, part of that instability, I think, is a creation.
Right.
Part of it is, that's what they want you all balanced.
Right. And something like Danny and I were talking about is like, we both got into crypto in 2017, and we fully didn't understand it. Like I'm nowhere near understood. If I understood where I was today.
But you had a background that helped you better understand it than most people though.
Right. But most of these projects, like even with XRP, like XRP's cross-border payment, it was an idea.
Mm.
You know, a lot of these like projects, there were concepts. You know, wasn't being implemented the way it is today. You know, today we have, you know, Wisdom Tree Prime. That's like Wisdom Tree is an asset management company that built this subsidiary on like the Stellar blockchain where we can hold treasury, you know, Bitcoin, gold, all within one app. Like none of that stuff existed.
Right.
And what we heard back in 2017 was the dark web, you know, and they
Right.
were using Bitcoin for money laundering. Criminals were using it. And, you know, and even recently we were talking about Jamie Dimon, you know, Bitcoin's a pet rock. And I kind of feel like the media doesn't want people to own Bitcoin and cryptocurrency until they tell us to.
Right.
You know, it's pretty.
Until they make it convenient, like the banking system, so where you're
Right.
in it, but you don't even know you're in it. So they're making money, not you.
Right. Right. So when Fidelity and BlackRock and all these major institutions, now we have a Bitcoin spot ETF, we have an Ethereum ETF, they launched a Solana ETF in Brazil. It's only a matter of time before Solana gets an ETF. They just launched, it just went live, I believe, yesterday, XRP futures on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. That's usually the first step before a spot ETF. So I believe that all the top projects in cryptocurrency will have a spot ETF, and that's how people are going to get their exposure. But again, if you're buying that spot through Fidelity, Charles Schwab, E-Trade, whatever it is, you don't own it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't own it. So, you know, one of the services that I provide is, hey, look, it's okay if you want to leave some of your money in your Fidelity, you know, spot ETF account, but hold a little bit, like become your own bank in case there's an emergency. You want to physically hold your cash, your gold, your silver, your Bitcoin, and your crypto
Right.
outside the system, because some things we can't hold outside.
Right. And if you, you can definitely, that's preferential. But like you were saying, that other night in that you had that meetup on last Monday or whatever, and somebody was asking because they didn't have a lot of money to invest, and you were telling them how to do it through their 401k or something.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Reallocate
So
your funds.
exactly. Right. So if you're putting funds into your 401k, I mean, I'm definitely not going to advocate like cashing out your 401k, but that would be a good option, is to allocate some into the spot ETF.
Right.
So that's a really good point. Yeah. So once you onboard, right, you get your crypto onto Coinbase, you wait for that waiting period, right? Because they hold your coins hostage for
Right,
liquidity.
right.
Then send them off to the blockchain. We have a hardware device, and you become your own bank. We never want to leave our crypto on Coinbase or Uphold. You know, really good on and off boarding ramps. But when we hold our crypto, let's hold it offline.
Right.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So tell me what else, because Danny and I, you know, I think it's kind of like how we started developing our friendship was when I was working with you to become your own bank, and then I
Yes.
started doing small crypto meetups
Mhm.
that I'm like ramping up. I have my next crypto meetup. If you guys are listening, you can register. It's free, right? I just want to encourage everyone. You know, you don't have to become a cryptocurrency expert, but I do want everyone become your own bank. It's really important right now. So Monday at the Flagler County Palm Coast Library here in Florida, I'm doing a free intro class.
26.
The 26th at 5:30. So if you're local to Flagler Beach area, come join us at the library. And if you're not, you can, there'll be a Zoom link and you can Zoom in. I'll put that in the description as well. If you want to register. Yeah. And I just find it like really, really helpful, because I really think like explaining how deflationary Bitcoin is, like I can see it in people's eyes.
Yeah.
Like it's like that light bulb kind of goes off, you know, like you were saying with the price of gold.
Mm-hmm.
Like ever since we took the dollar off the gold standard, gold started going up,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what were you were buying gold at a couple $100?
Oh, no. I was just talking about the price from through the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. pretty much, from 4 to 600, there was some fluctuation, but after 2008, 2009,
Right.
it just
We
went
really
parabolic.
because we turned the printer press on.
Yeah.
And again, it's like we're creating money out of thin air. Why do we pay taxes? Conversation for another day. Pay your taxes, everybody. Awesome. So tell me, out of all the projects that I've talked about, what's one of your favorites?
I mean, XRP definitely has piqued my curiosity. I hear some Bitcoin maximalists will say, there's Bitcoin and then there's
Shit coins.
yes, and I think that's a naive view. I guess when I first got into it, I was a little bit more, looking through the world, looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. And, you kind of helped me see the reality of crypto, that there's, it's a thing and there's good, bad, and ugly, and there are going to be good things that come out of it. And then there are going to be systems that are not so good, but you were like teaching me how to ride the waves of that. And XRP was probably the introduction to that. And you talking about how a lot of financial systems will change or absorb XRP's technology into whatever they're doing, cross-border payments, SWIFT system, stuff like that. And so that's, when I think that the clincher too, when you first said that Rosie Rios, the ex-US Treasury Secretary, 2014 joined the board of Ripple XRP. And I thought, wow, okay, something's got to be going on.
Yeah, I always find every once in a while, like I just go on to like Ripple's website, and then you can look at all their board of directors and see like all the high level companies, and they're fortunate enough to have Rosie Rio. She was the 43rd treasurer of the United States government, and she was part of the Obama administration during the 2008 financial crisis. So I mean, I can speculate and say during the next financial crisis,
right,
she's on the board of Ripple.
Yeah.
So,
yep. So it's that type of information. I almost had to, stop, maybe with my conspiracy theories and, just understand what was happening. And, who can blame people for being a little bit, of a conspiracy theorist, because there's so much information and so much, I believe, purpose misdirection, but.
Right. But if you just go, like, if you went to Ripple's website, you could see how they integrated XRP. It's really funny. I was listening to Brad Garlinghouse probably like 2 years ago, and he said XRP is the heartbeat. It's the heartbeat of RippleNet. And RippleNet is an alternative SWIFT system.
Right.
So when the SEC sued Ripple for selling unregistered securities, and the judge came out and said XRP in and of itself is not a security. And now, but institutions and banks can't buy XRP directly from Ripple.
Right.
So Ripple is launching a stable coin, which is RLUSD, Ripple Labs USD, or real USD is what all the crypto people say. So now institutions and banks can go to Ripple, sign a contract, buy real USD, so it's on the XRP ledger, right? The stable coins on the XRP ledger. RippleNet immediately converts it over to XRP and sends it anywhere in 3 to 5 seconds across the world. Instantaneous settlement, pennies on the dollar. No one even knows that they just used cryptocurrency. That's adoption.
Right.
That's adoption. We have to get it to a point where that user interface is so seamless that people are using crypto without even knowing that they're using crypto, because everyone's going to be paying for things in USDC, Tether, whatever stable coin they decide, maybe real USD. We'll be paying for things using that digital dollar, but all that back end processing is on the blockchain.
Right.
So the average person wouldn't know that we just had mass adoption.
And that's not where you want to be. Like you said, you want to enter in now.
Right. So we're getting closer and closer. Like
those people aren't going to benefit from, they might benefit in some ways from the new, through the new system, but they're not going to benefit financially.
as an investment.
Right.
Right. We're all going to, it's funny because so many people are like, oh, I don't trust Bitcoin and I don't trust crypto. And it's like, well, there's that educational curve, right? There's a learning curve there. But the other thing is we trust our current system.
Right.
Our current system is literally falling apart. All the banks get hacked, right? Because they're not decentralized. There's one point of failure. Home Depot, Target, all of our social security numbers, it was announced yesterday, they all got leaked again. This stuff happens over and over again. Our Treasury Department.
What happened in 2008?
Right.
Washington Mutual, whatever you own.
Right. The banks go under, so it's our current system, these centralized systems, they're getting an upgrade. And if they don't get an upgrade to the blockchain, they're going to get absorbed or they're going to go under. My personal opinion, it's just from what I'm seeing, because a lot of these smaller banks are going to get absorbed, into the JP Morgan. And we see it all the time. So my question is, why would we trust our current systems when they're so they're not censorship resistant? There's only one point of failure. They're not transparent. How much money is in our banks? If we go to the bank and we're like, hey, can I get 20 grand out? Are they going to say we don't have the money? Because some banks do that.
Right.
Or you have to call to make an appointment just to get 20 grand out.
Yeah. And it's difficult to know what it will look like, but nobody, not the average person couldn't imagine what had happened in 2008. If you said that in 2007 to the average person, you would have thought you're crazy. So you're same thing now.
Right. Same thing now. But I kind of feel like a lot of people know that something's very wrong.
Right.
People, it's so easy to feel overwhelmed. And again, it's like when I listen to the media, it's just like you're constantly putting all this information, all this fear, and people get paralyzed. And then you don't make a decision.
Right.
And if you don't make a decision, eventually the decision will be made for you.
Right.
So, my whole spiel is, let's get empowered.
Yeah.
So we can make better decisions. If we're prepared and, when with CrowdStrike, airplanes were down, we couldn't access our bank accounts. If we're prepared, we don't have to panic.
And most people saw that as some sort of anomaly that just was a coincidence or just, was a random act. I mean, you saw it.
We don't know.
But
right. So the way I look at it, I kind of get excited. So when CrowdStrike did a software upgrade and it went bad. Okay. So we can question that, but I'm not questioning that. What I'm thinking is, holy cow, 80% of our cloud is pretty much run by one company, Microsoft, and that cloud is called Azure, right? I used to hire Azure developers. So, okay, so 80% of our cloud is owned by Microsoft. What companies or what cryptocurrency projects are going to help decentralize our cloud? Bring it back to the people, not just one company. Because if we have multiple or hundreds, thousands points of failures, our systems won't fail. Our systems won't get hacked.
Right.
So I think about projects like Flux, Akash, decentralizing our cloud. I love, if you go to Akash's network, if you go to their website, it says you will own your cloud and you will be happy. You know what I mean? Sign me up for that, right? Because in the new system, we will own everything in a decentralized way. It might take us 10 years to get there, but eventually you can't stop this, But in the meantime, and I think that's why a lot of Bitcoiners can say XRP and all these other coins, they're poop coins, they're shit coins, right? But we live in a centralized world. Majority of the population interacts with centralized systems on a daily basis. We all use dollars. We all use credit cards that's attached to our current centralized system.
Right.
So if we're going to be working within this system, then let's give it that upgrade that it needs. So at least it won't get hacked, you know? And it's also transparent. If we can keep these ledgers public, then everyone can see every single transaction.
Right.
Like
right.
to me, that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
But it's got to be every transaction. I want to know the government's transactions, the bank's transactions, you know, not just the people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this technology can literally free us, or it can enslave us. But how different really is that today?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Bank of America, a lot of people don't know this, but like all these different banks, you know, they can just cancel our account and send us a check and be like,
Right.
you know, we unbanked you. And that's why I love Stellar so much, because Stellar is promoting financial applications where you can be your own bank.
Oh,
You don't need a bank.
right.
You need an app on your phone if you're living in a remote location.
Oh, right.
Right?
That's, yeah, that commercial of the guy in Colombia.
Yeah. So there's this awesome story. If you guys want to check out, go to Stellar Development Foundation on YouTube. And there's this guy who traveled to Colombia, fell in love with this little town called San Francisco in Colombia, not San Francisco in America. But he bought this waterfall and this, like all of these like hectares of land, and he bought the land and the waterfall for 20 grand.
Wow.
I know. So he created a school and he started teaching people like how to be like virtual assistants. So then he had a business, a virtual business, and he had to jump on his bike or get in his car, like his motorcycle or his car. His car was bulletproof. He had a special jacket made, and he would hit all these different ATMs, and he would never go to the same ATM twice, right? So he was trying to lay low so he could pay the 50 people that were working, and he got shot one day. So he calls his buddy up.
Him and his bodyguard, right?
No, just him. Well,
Okay.
his bodyguard not a bodyguard. His friend, he's like his right-hand man. He's a retired police officer. He just got shot. He used to be like run by the cartel. So there is like so much crime. The crime is gone, but there's no banking. There's no bank in the town. Like that's the thing that most Americans don't understand. Once you leave America and you go visit some of these remote villages, or a lot of people don't use banking services, right? Either they don't trust the banks or they don't have access to that. But now with a phone, you just download that app and you can start participating in cryptocurrency, right? So after the guy got shot and his friend, his retired police officer, he was shot like, in the line of duty. But like he called his buddy up in Australia and he was like, what am I supposed to do? Like I can't like risk my life just so I can pay people. And his buddy was like, I just created this awesome wallet called Decaf on the Stellar blockchain, and that's what they're using to pay. So they never have to go back.
Very good.
Right. So that's solving real world problems. Even if you have to do KYC, right? Once you do KYC, that's centralized.
Right.
Okay. There's no privacy. They do clawbacks. There's all this code that's written. It's not private, but it's still an upgrade from our current system.
Right.
Which is why I try to educate people. Bitcoin is awesome, censorship resistant, peer-to-peer, no third-party intermediary. There's no CEO. Right. There's no president of Bitcoin. It's run by the community. So we have all these nodes. So it's almost infallible to take down. But at the same time, it's like, do you want to use your Bitcoin to buy a cup of coffee? No, I want to use USDC or XLM. Really, I want to use USDC, especially at this point, because I do believe we're going back into the second leg of the bull run. Through the chaos, all the confusion. By the end of the year, I think we're all going to be pretty happy. Yeah, not financial advice, but it's just like we go in these cycles.
Right.
Every 4 years, Bitcoin halves, and it pulls the whole market up. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
Right. Well, then XRP's got it's I don't think it's just any regular altcoin.
I don't
what did
think
you
so
what did you
either.
call them? ISO
20022.
Is that the backbone of the new financial system, or what?
Right, so
separates
that,
it from-
it's kind of like so the SWIFT system is what we use right now for when we do trade, right? So the SWIFT system is what we weaponize, right?
Right.
We will freeze Russia's accounts, we froze Cuba's accounts. So anyone who goes against, Americans' policies, they cut you off of the system. Okay, right. So there's that.
Yeah,
So 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 what Ripple did is they built an alternative SWIFT system, which goes to, well, is that the main reason why the SEC, like, why did the SEC choose Ripple out of all the,
right.
out of
Right.
all of the projects? And Ripple spent, I think, over $150 million defending themselves, right? But they wanted to bring clarity
Right.
to all of cryptocurrency, not just XRP. And Ripple's valuation is more than Coinbase, it's more than Binance. People don't even know this.
Yeah.
Right. So
And-
they could take the hit. They could represent, because when the SEC went after Odyssey for their library token, which was a decentralized like streaming platform, it put library under, because like they're not Ripple.
Right.
Ripple's working with the banks, they're working with the
Right,
regulators. It is a centralized system, but the XRP ledger, now that's decentralized. But Ripple is a company, XRP ledger is decentralized, right? So we'll see, I don't know. I think the BRICS nations are meeting in October.
Mhm.
It's going to be super interesting to see, if they do. I believe they're going to be a part of Bridge, which was rolled out by the Bank of International Settlements, central bank of central banks. So they created this platform for CBDCs. And I believe that that's what the BRICS nations is going to adopt. I could be wrong. I don't know. But if it is adopted, then when countries choose to trade with themselves, they can use their own currency. Well, what's going to be that bridge currency? Because if I'm sending United States dollar and you're in Mexico,
Right.
then I can use the XRP ledger. I can send you $1 and it uses XRP as a bridge, converts it into a peso,
Mhm.
and then boom, you get that
Right.
peso in
That's
3 to
the
5 seconds.
Bridge system you're talking about?
Right. So are they going to use XRP or they could use any currency as bridge. They
Right.
could use Bitcoin as
Right,
bridge.
right.
To make that conversion. But when I look at Stellar and I look at Ripple, they were the first 2 companies to join the ISO 20022. And just think of it as it's an upgrade. Just
Okay.
like the blockchain is an upgrade, we need to upgrade the messaging systems. And they were the first 2 that joined the ISO 20022 board, right? So I believe that it's Algorand, XLM, XRP, Quant, Ethereum, and there's going to be so many.
Right.
Because it's really just a number that's attached to that crypto that can give you that standard. But my whole thinking process around it is Ripple and Stellar were the first 2. Who has the relationships? Who has the partnerships?
Right. Well, and when you
You
started
know.
talking about the people that were on the board, and like, I was saying Rosie Rios and
Right.
Ripple,
Right. Exactly.
and the SEC lawsuit that you were, that you've been talking about forever, and it's finally come to a head.
Right.
So
It kind of seems like everything is lining up. I saw this morning, like Chuck Schumer, I think he's the Speaker of the House for the Democrats. I used to live around the corner from him.
Oh, wow.
In Park Slope, Brooklyn, So he's pushing for stablecoin legislation to be signed by the end of the year. And then let's see, we got the FIT21 bill. I mean, we are going to get regulation for cryptocurrency.
Sure.
And again, it's like, it's not a matter of if this is going to happen.
Right.
It's already happening. How much is America going to be a leader in this new innovative technology? Because if we don't have the rules of the road, we've already lost 11% of all blockchain positions. All these jobs are going across seas. Companies are moving to the UAE, El Salvador, to crypto-friendly places.
Right.
Because the United States, Gary Gensler, the SEC, is like, come on in and talk to us. And then he drops a Wells notice. Hey, we're going to sue you.
Oh.
And that's what they've been doing. So if I was starting a blockchain company, I wouldn't want to do it in America.
Yeah.
Because like I'm going to get sued. So we'll see what happens, but we're going to get regulation. I don't know how much America is going to be a big time leader,
Right.
but we are a leader, and we shouldn't be discounted. We're still the world reserve currency of the world. I was listening to Danielle Dixon, and again, it's just like, we just need a little bit more time, but Danielle said we need that stablecoin bill signed by the end of the year. And if the Democrats are smart, right? I'm politically agnostic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm just looking for truth.
Yeah.
Right. But if the Democrats are smart, they'll have it. They'll have a signed bill by the end of the year, at least for stable coins. Right. And then we could see the real USD maybe have some sort of regulatory clarity around Tether.
Right.
Like Tether holds a majority of the United States debt.
Right.
I think they're number 4. Japan's number 1. Right. We got killed with that, carry trade. Right. But like, Tether needs regulatory clarity, USDC, and then we'll see how well Ripple stablecoin does. I'm pretty I am so super bullish, Danny. I know you are too. Like when we were doing the crypto meetup, we did it on Monday night. He was so passionate, and he was like, "Just listen to Andrea. Like, just listen to what she has to say." Because you can feel it.
Yeah.
We are moving into a new paradigm.
That's the whole reason that I went to that meetup, because I knew some people I knew were going to be there, and trying to kind of not put them at ease, but make them realize that you're not just trying to sell them on something. You really understand what's happening. We're moving into it, and it's really like a now or never type of scenario. I mean, it's
yeah, absolutely.
Happen.
And the more you know me, the more I just want to help people.
Right.
I want to help people become your own bank, and I can provide you all of this research, all these tools.
Right.
To empower you to do your own research. I don't want to tell you what to buy.
Right.
That's up to you.
But you also turned me on to a few interesting projects that at the time, I don't know if you can do it now actually, but like with Meld and other things, and you were, the process isn't as simple as going on a brokerage account and purchasing this asset or this token.
Exactly. So I can help bridge you and I can assist you to come into the decentralized financial world, which is Meld. Like Meld is a decentralized bank, right? It's a banking app. So it's so cool because I run a private Telegram group that Danny's part of, but we see each other all the time. He never checks it. He knows I'll just call him, right? So Meld just brought on the Hong Kong stablecoin, and they also just and then the next day they brought on Australia stablecoin. Wow. So again, I mean, we are moving into a new system. We're going to have a choice between the centralized system and the decentralized system, and they're going to connect, right? And that connection is going to be done through Chainlink. You knew that. I was going to type it, I didn't want to put him on the spot, right? So Chainlink's kind of connecting Web 2 to Web 3, right? Okay. And Flare, I'm a big, for a young project, and again, Meld, Flare, Songbird, these can all go to zero. I'm not saying take a mortgage out on your house, right? But I'm just saying diversification. And I want to support some of these projects because they can actually make the world a better place. Same thing when I think about Cardano. If we can bring voting onto the Cardano blockchain, right, transparent for everyone to see, we can stop the fraud, right? And there's enough people that believe there is fraud, whether there is or not, it doesn't matter. Because if you believe it, then it's true for you. Bring it to the blockchain.
Well, just the fact that there is fraud, there's definitely going to be some resistance to bringing voting onto the blockchain.
Oh, I know. I saw that. I saw with Senator Warren with the polls.
Right.
There's a thing called Polymarket, and you can bet on who's going to become the next president.
Right.
Is it going to be Trump? Is it going to be Harris? And all of a sudden, Senator Warren was like, "We got to shut that down." Why? Because you're pumping all your information through all your polls, right? Through all the media that you own, right? Right. She's on the banking committee. Don't forget, she's a bankster.
Yeah.
She's for the banks, but she says she's for the people. Right. She protects the banks. And it's just like, so you're going to protect, what your control. So you don't want people to go on the blockchain and face their bets that are transparent
Right.
for everyone to see. That's a much better poll than the polls that we
Right.
have now.
What's interesting, I think, if you watch some of these crypto events or these Bitcoin events, and some of these politicians are talking about them in their platforms, and it seems like RFK Jr. really has the background, has the knowledge, is the one
Yeah.
talking about it. And Trump's talking about it to an extent, but it doesn't seem like he knows.
Trump isn't talking.
No.
Trump is like, oh, I love you, Bitcoin. Like, you want Bitcoin, and that's fine. He'll
Right.
hire people. He'll hire people to do the right thing, and I believe Harris will do the same thing. Honestly, the thing about Robert Kennedy Jr. is that he's so intelligent. He's
Yeah.
so articulate. He's researched it.
Right.
He went. This was his second Bitcoin conference. And from the first Bitcoin conference to the second Bitcoin conference, most of his wealth now is held in Bitcoin.
Wow.
Because he educated himself.
Sure.
It's the same thing. The thing I love about RFK Jr., because he doesn't have a chance to be president, they won't let him.
Right.
The media,
Right.
or he's having a hard time getting on ballots, So, but the message from him is empower yourself. He's bringing us the information so we can do the research.
Right.
And that's what I love about RFK Jr. So if you didn't listen, it was in my last newsletter. I actually added his speech from the Bitcoin conference, and you just listening to him, you just learn so much about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it's just so awesome. So, but he would be a leader that I would get behind.
Sure.
And everyone's got their pros and cons.
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, but I truly believe it doesn't matter who becomes president, because we're moving to the blockchain. Right.
This is bigger than
This is so much bigger than that. Like, I literally, as an IT recruiter, I've been watching and following these companies build the infrastructure to the new monetary system. Here's a good example. I posted yesterday in our Telegram group. If you go to Ripple's website, you go to careers, they're hiring an engineer to connect the XRP ledger to the banking system.
Wow.
Okay. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And then I post it. We're moving into this new monetary system where we're all going to be connected. But it's going to be so cool because, in a way, it's like, if I'm like, hey, Danny, you did some work for me. Do you have Zelle? You're like, no, Andrew, I don't have Zelle, but I have Venmo.
Right.
These are walled gardens. With crypto, it's what's your address.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
Like what platform we're using, because they all interconnect.
Yeah.
XRP Ledger connects to Cardano, which connects to Ethereum, which connects to Algorand. They're all interconnected. So I see all of these as like the new highways of the infrastructure, right, for the monetary system. But we're not going to have to ask those questions anymore because it's all interoperable.
Right. Very cool. Oh, yeah.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah. I was trying to think if there was anything else I was going to say or wanted to ask you.
Yeah, ask me away. Now's your chance.
I mean, I know you don't want to get too much into this, but I think sometimes it is a stumbling block for people, with the, you've got this old system with a bunch of entrenched players, and everybody's always thinking of in dichotomous ways of good versus evil. You got me off of that too, learning about crypto. And it's just like, because I'm always like, who created Bitcoin? Who, where is this coming from? But it's solving a lot for us, but it's not like everything is being put forth, for our or benefit, just for our benefit. I mean, there are going to be people making money off the backs of these systems, and it's one of the reasons why I think it is going to happen.
Right.
But I mean, I didn't have a question specifically about that. I just knew that it's a stumbling block for people when they think about entering into the crypto market.
Right. So it's kind of like, if you can enter the crypto market and if you can handle the volatility,
Right.
right? I mean, last bull market, Bitcoin went up to 69,000, crashed all the way down to 15,000.
Yeah.
4 years later, we're back at 60,000, right? We even went as high as 73,000, dropped back down to 49,000, popped back up to 60,000. It's a roller coaster ride. But when you look at Bitcoin as a long-term store of value, and as we get adopted, that volatility is going to go away. We got BlackRock, Fidelity, Wisdom Tree Prime, Franklin Templeton, ARK Investments, Brace. We got all these major asset management funds buying Bitcoin. That volatility, in theory, should start to like level out. But then it's like never in the history could like an average person like us front run these institutions. Right. So we've been holding Bitcoin and crypto a lot longer than banks and institutions and governments, right? So that's kind of like to be part of that transfer of wealth, right?
Yeah.
That we've been going through. That's a really big deal. And we still have time. But when I kind of zoom out, I'm just like, how adopted are we, right, guys? We're not super adopted. So we'll probably crash again really, really hard. I don't know how much Bitcoin's going to crash. I don't know. Because now we have major players involved. But I think all the other altcoins, right? Everything other than Bitcoin is considered an altcoin. I believe that they're going to crash. And then in the next leg, in 4 years, I believe that's when I see mass adoption. Everything's going to go live. And again, you could go to the roadmaps. You could go to FedNow payments and look at their roadmap. You could go to Bank of International Settlements, look at their roadmap, and I think by 2025, all the stable coins are going to be flowing through the system at a much larger scale. And if the stable coins are running off of, XRP Ledger, the Stellar blockchain, the Solana blockchain, is that going to add value, right? Or take away value? It's going to add value to these systems because now we're actually utilizing, the blockchain, and then you pay the gas fees with these tokens, right? Little tiny fees that add up over time brings value into these systems. So, I think of real world assets, artificial intelligence, and these utility coins for the second half of the bull run that's about to start, because Fed's going to cut rates in September. We know it's coming. So this inflation that's here, even though it might flatten out, but we already had so much inflation. We've already devalued the dollar. We're not going to strengthen the dollar at this point. I think it's more of like kicking the can down the road. Which is what we always do.
Well, and we've had inflation here, but even if you compare it to, countries across Europe, they've seen, 100%. 150% inflation. I think there's still more to come. Well, obviously.
So we're going to see what happens. Again, it's just like once we start lowering interest rates and we do quantitative easing, it devalues the dollar. So I'm no macroeconomist, but I just feel so blessed to be like, I have diversified as much as I possibly can. So if something happens, then I have an alternative, to the dollar. I got the dollar, but I got gold, I got silver, I got Bitcoin, and I got crypto. I got a piece of the new financial system. Because that's the other question I get. Because you're an EMF guy. It's like, oh, well, what if the grid goes down? Well, like when the grid goes back up, are we going to be on the old centralized system with one point of failure? Or are we going to be on the blockchain? We're going to be on the blockchain. You know what I mean? And if it's an EMP and then we're going to be worried about where we're going to the bathroom. You know what I mean?
And your money on the current centralized exchange is not going to be there anyway.
It might not be. It might not be. And let's just hope that doesn't happen. I don't like to go to those doomsday things because I feel like it's another form of like controlling people. And there's truth to it. There's truth in everything, but I believe that we're moving into a new paradigm and we're going to build something better because we are.
Definitely some interesting developments. interesting, super smart players, just like the video you showed the other night at the other whatever group that you're a part of or that you teach to, where Dr. Jack Cruz was talking about, things that he was working on, with Bitcoin and other blockchains, trying to get medical freedom.
Right, because we don't want centralization of anything. We don't want a few people owning everything. We want to decentralize it. Right. So we can bounce ideas off of each other and not just,
Yeah.
It's really important.
Yep.
It's really important. Local?
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So everyone, you should be your own bank. You can get an Engrave, Tangem. You got a SafePal.
Mm-hmm.
I love SafePal. I love Tangem. Engrave is more of like a bump up. If you own a lot of crypto, like I always recommend like a deep storage Engrave. It's got like an EAL7 security, better than a credit card, right? So yeah, everybody just become your own bank. You don't have to like put all your money into crypto, but maybe hold a little. I do Q&As, right? I do Q&As last Saturday of every month. Or $10. I make this so affordable to everybody.
That's what I try to tell everybody is like, she is
Right.
so affordable to work with.
Right.
I mean, to get you up and going and and safeguard, secure your investment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, it's
taking a lot of the risk out of something that, might have a bit of an inherent, or does have a bit of inherent risk to it.
Right. I don't want people to go through what I went through back in 2017, trying to get my stuff on my paper wallet or my clunky old Trezor that's like not even compatible anymore. So I mean, this is definitely the time. I truly believe in the next couple months I want to do like a full court press. I was an athlete back in the day, and I want to help as many people as possible become your own bank, and just take some time to learn about it. Because again, with elections coming up, Danny, is the world going to become more stable or more right? So let's become our own bank.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So we're gonna wrap up the show, and as we always say, we're gonna end the show. Danny, what do we say?
Hodl on.
Hodl on, y'all. Love you guys.